Hello, I'm the Miami Autism Dad, Victor Antunez, the Inclusive My Realtor, and this is the Autism Podcast at Miami's Community Newspapers. Today I'm with Anthony Gonzalez. He is a self-advocate living with cerebral palsy. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thank you for having me, Victor.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
And I know you prefer AJ, so we'll go with AJ for the rest of the interview.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So for a lot of people, myself included, we've heard the term cerebral palsy, not exactly sure what that means. So can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. So people with cerebral palsy have some sort of deficiency, either depending on mobility or, in my case, blood flow is not proficient. So in my case, I have left side hemiplegia. So my left side is limited. That's why I'm able to walk, but I have my limp and my limited mobility in my hand. That's from my perspective. And cerebral palsy could be high functioning, could be low functioning, depending on who has it more severe. There's those that are in wheelchairs that can't speak or move themselves. So it all depends on that type of cerebral palsy or situation that they have. And it doesn't mean that they can't do anything, but they're limited.
Now, when you say high functioning, low functioning, we're talking physically or also cognitively?
Both. It could be both, because you could have someone that is mentally there, but not physically being able to communicate, or you could have someone that's not mentally there, but physically be able to communicate. So it just depends on the situation of that person.
When you say mentally not there, I mean, because I think of like autism, like you have kids who are verbal, some who are not verbal, some who are profoundly autistic where they need help in with everything basically. So with cerebral palsy, when you say they're not there, like what kind of support needs would that person have?
They would need either someone to be with them 24/7 to take care of them or guide them in the right direction, because they could either be easily distracted, or they could also have that support where they are able to get the job done, but they just need a little push to move forward and get that done. So that may be either washing clothes, taking care of themselves. They just need that support with them.
Okay. Now, you did a questionnaire for me.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was about your childhood. And we all suffer childhood one way or another.
Yes,
nobody gets through childhood without some kind of scars. But yours, with your cerebral palsy, there are different kinds of scars. So you talk about, at a certain age, realizing that you were being excluded from games during recess. At what age was that?
I would say I was 5, 6 years old when I realized it, because it would come up to that game of dodgeball. And that's when I realized, okay, these people are choosing me last because I'm the last option, and they would not really let me play. And if they did, I was easily out of the game. Obviously, when you have some sort of disability, you don't know your behaviors until you get older. So I would obviously get very frustrated. And then that's when I started realizing, okay, there's more of this than what I was told. And thankfully, my mother, of all else, my parents were able to not have me know about that. But then obviously when you're in that environment with your peers, you start to realize it yourself, because the whole goal is for a person with disability to feel included. So you don't want to have them to feel different. So you try to hide that as much as possible. But obviously the older you get, the more you start realizing, okay, I'm different from a regular person that doesn't have a disability.
And you were mainstream, regular, public, or private schools?
I was in public school. I was in the ESC program. And I found out that I was in that program. Obviously, when you get older, when you're a little kid, you don't notice that much stuff. It required having 2 teachers to help you one-on-one when needed. But obviously, the education system makes it a little challenging.
How so?
They sometimes could put 40 kids with 2 teachers.
Oh, yes, of course.
And
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And then you have those that cannot do well in school. I never did well in school in elementary. I remember getting D's and F's.
Why is that?
Because I didn't have the support that I really needed to be educated. And at home, it was challenging for my mother to help me with school, because she would get home from work, sometimes work late night shifts, and then help me with my homework, because in aftercare, they really couldn't help me. But then when I got to middle school, I started doing a change. There was this quarterly award show for kids that got A's and B's. And that's what made my shift to do better in school. And from that day on, I started doing amazing on my own and studying really hard and getting that support through school and advocating for myself.
Now, you graduated 2019 which is not that long ago.
No, it's not.
When you graduated high school, do you think that the kids in the ESC programs were getting the supports they need?
I didn't know that there was vocational rehabilitation until my senior year. There was friends that I've asked, they told me, I knew about it since I was in 9th grade and I already registered. So the counselors did not really give you that information until the very end. And thankfully through that, I was able to go to school and graduate with my associates, my bachelor's, and my master's. And they were supporting me until the very end, until recently that I graduated with my master's in public relations from the University of Florida.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But what I was referring to is in the actual public school. Do you think in the public schools, the ESC programs, you were getting support you needed in the high school level?
Not really. I didn't, because I'd seen kids that have the ESC program as I did, and they really didn't get the support they need because the teachers get frustrated. There's too many kids, and you're also helping those that don't need the ESC. So you're trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah, I think that it's really easy to demonize teachers, but you have teachers who aren't trained in kids with disabilities. And on top of that, you got 40 kids.
Yeah.
2 teachers. That's impossible.
It's impossible. And you have each one that has the kids have their own behavior. So how do you manage that and teach a class?
I quite frankly, I don't know how they do it. And because even if you divided it, let's say, 1 teacher per 20 kids, I guess that would be better than 1 class with 40 kids. 40. Because that seems like a zoo.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And I myself have seen it because I've had classes where the teacher would have to bring in another desk. Or sometimes the other teacher would not show up because they had to cover another teacher that's out. So there's always that main issue where you don't have the support regardless.
Yeah. When I graduated from Sunset, we had about like 32 kids in the class, which even that was a lot.
Yeah.
But then it was only 1 teacher. Now it's 2 with 40, which I don't know which is better, but neither one seems ideal.
No. I've had classes where there's 44 and there's 1 teacher.
44.
And they don't give the support.
What was the subject? I'm just curious.
This was reading, language arts.
Imagine reading.
Yeah.
With 44 kids.
44 kids. and you can't cover all of them.
Maybe like PE you could do 44.
Well, yeah, maybe.
But not like reading or writing it or arithmetic and all this.
No, it was a very challenging, and I saw it more in high school. More than anything, because middle school, you don't pay attention to those details.
No, you're not aware.
You're not aware.
You start to yourself.
Yeah. And high school is when you start realizing, okay, this is going on. Why is this going on? I had an issue when I first started high school in 9th grade. I was waiting for my bus, and this bus was packed with kids. People were sitting in the floor.
Really?
Yes.
How is that even like legal?
I said, that's not even legal. So how are they even doing this? So I went upon myself and spoke to the principal, and I told him, hey, this is happening. These kids are getting on this bus. The driver wasn't even awake because it's like 6 a.m, mind you. And this guy's maybe in his 60s. He almost hit a trash can in one of those rides. I said, okay, this needs to stop. And for my safety and for the safety of others. So that's when I'm like, okay, I'm going to go talk to the principal. And they were able to get rid of the kids and bring another bus. But if I don't have a key for that, I would still be sitting on the floor.
Yeah. And if they didn't have the resources. Because if you don't have that extra bus, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I think that with good reason, we're having, I'm calling it a reformation of the public school system. Because things can't go on that way.
No, they can't. And then the school system, unfortunately, is not doing great themselves. I'm sure you're aware that they didn't have a good enrollment.
No, terrible. It's way down.
Yeah, and it has to do with the fact that a lot of parents are going to charter schools or private because that's where the better education is for their students. And I don't blame them. If we gave our public schools the care they needed, we would have that big enrollment and that care of needed education for students and for kids.
Yeah. Fortunately, I think that they can turn it around. But it takes like a good kick in the butt sometimes to get turned around. Yeah,
it does. And we have we're in one of the largest public school systems in the country.
We are, on top of everything else.
Yes. And I think there's a lot they could do that could be improved. And I think we're seeing that with the new leadership in the public school system and the school board. So they're getting it, but they'll get there eventually, little by little.
Okay. Now, before we go too far into like high school and beyond, let's go back to your childhood because that's a really big deal. Because there will be people here, mostly parents with kids who are dealing with some kind of disability. Oh, and also like when I was doing my research for the podcast and looking at cerebral palsy, it seems like it's kind of like a spectrum also, like autism, right?
Yes.
But they don't call it a spectrum, but it's kind of like a spectrum, right?
It is. But they don't, the way cerebral palsy works, and I mentioned earlier, it affects them in different ways. And if you don't have that support system to push you forward, you can't get to that level you need.
No, and also takes a lot of parent participation also.
Yes, my parent was a big push for it. If not, I wouldn't be sitting here with you in this podcast, because when I was a child, they told me, oh, your kid may not be able to talk or do anything for themselves. And my mom said, okay, I'll show you. Mm-hmm. And now I'm here. If it wasn't for that push, I wouldn't be where I am now, advocating for people with disabilities, working where I work, and doing everything now.
Yeah. Now, so your mom's been a big part of your life. Do you remember being told that, AJ, you have this disability, or did you ask about it?
When I started realizing I was getting excluded from activities, that's when I went up and I asked my parents, my mom, like, why is this happening? And they're like, oh, because you have this disability, you may see things differently now. And that's how I became about knowing what I have. But it was self-awareness first before anything else.
And did it help or hurt to know finally, like, this is why this is happening?
It kind of helped, because then I was able to put limitations on myself.
But not in a bad way. Maybe?
Or expectations of what I can and cannot do. But even though I don't like asking for help, I try to do everything for myself. Very hard you'll find me asking someone to help me. Even opening a water bottle. I try to do everything myself because I know I'm capable.
That's great. And so 5 years old, you're still in kindergarten, and kids can be mean. How did you deal with that meanness?
It wasn't that easy, because when you're a kid, you're not aware of how you react or how you behave. So obviously, the older I got, the more I became more self-aware of my situation or the disability I have. But I would get mad with people. I'm like, why are you not including me in this? Why are you not doing this? And then the teacher would have to come and kind of de-escalate the situation and go from there.
And your teachers, so you graduated in 2019. So this was in 2006, which was what, 20 years ago? Yeah. I mean, even 20 years ago, the world and the disability
world was not the medicine that we have is not the same as it was before. And
just the awareness also.
Yeah.
Now, did your teachers have to be also educated on cerebral palsy, or did they know? And
I would not know much about it, but I would think they would need to know, because if they have some person with a disability, they need to know how to handle or de-escalate a situation, especially when a child doesn't know how to control their behavior. Mm-hmm. And I think that they did a pretty good job, because I never realized it until that point. Mm-hmm. And then from there is when I've said, okay, I'm different. I could get help from someone or advocate for someone and go from there.
When you talk about getting help from somebody, did you do any kind of therapies when you were a kid?
Yes, I did physical and OT.
You know what? PT, physical therapy, is pretty obvious what that is.
Yeah.
Occupational therapy is not so obvious. Unpack that for me, what that was for you.
So occupational therapy is more of the mobility part of it. So that be using, in my case, it would be using my hand, trying to get that hand to be more mobile, and also helping me with life skills. So I learned how to tie a shoe with a device that they had on the desk. And they would tell you, do it like this, tie your shoe like this, and then they would help you with the actual shoe. They taught me how to shave, because that was something that they realized as they got older, like, okay, he needs to know how to shave himself. So they teach you life skills. Occupational therapy, they teach you life skills and a lot of with mobility with the hand.
You know, something that I've noticed being in this world now for a while is that people with disabilities are having much better outcomes as adults. Because if you had been born, let's say 20 years earlier, maybe you would not have received that PT or that OT. And how do you think that would have affected your life?
Yeah, I mean, I felt it myself, because I remember my mom telling me she had a challenge trying to find me occupational therapy and physical therapy back in the day.
Yeah.
And then when I turned 18, the government said, oh yeah, you don't need this. You could do things yourself. You could wash yourself and do everything. So we're not going to give you the services you need. So I haven't had therapy since I was like maybe 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then the few times that I did was because the state was able to provide for it very minimal.
How old are you now, Anthony?
25.
Do you think that you should still be receiving therapies, or like you just do it to yourself, like for yourself?
I think I should, just for my well-being and health.
Uh-huh.
I think that's why I think it's important for me to get it, and obviously mobility in the hand. But it's always been challenging because, as we know, we live in a country where everything is based on money and getting funding for stuff. So if you don't get the services through different means or sponsorships or Medicaid, Medicare, you're not going to be able to do that. And I've applied and they've denied me because I'm able to do my stuff for myself.
But I mean, there's still going to be things you're limited to.
Yes. I had APD actually show up to my house in December because they do a 3-year review.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman told me, I don't think you'll be able to get the services for PT and OT, but that's up to my supervisor. And to this day, I still have not heard back from APD.
Really? And APD, for people that don't know, is?
The Agency for People with Disabilities, the state agency in Florida.
Yeah, and they've got a very long wait list.
Yes. I've been on that wait list since 2006.
Really? That's a long time.
Yeah. That's why it's really important for them to get registered at a very young age, because you could get on that wait list and be there forever, or you could be on that wait list and then be removed depending on your situation. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always, that part's important. I didn't understand it until recently myself.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes with the APD is that there's a system and you just have to know how to work the system.
Yes, and knowing people that were part of the system to help you navigate it.
Yeah, and there's paid advocates out there that will do that, but they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
But I think they work, but they're expensive.
They are really expensive. And then sometimes the system changes. So you don't even know what's new, what's not, or the contact you have there may have left because they don't even pay their employees as well as they should. It's a state agency.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter, she's level 2 autistic, non-conversational. It's obvious that she needs help, and they turned her down.
Yeah. I saw a parent that had a child in a wheelchair, and they turned them down because the parent makes more money.
But isn't the APD independent of the parent's income?
They depend. Sometimes they depend on it, because if you registered your parent, or your parent registered you, and they put their income and they make this amount, they won't give it to you because they say, oh, then you could pay for it out of your own pocket. Why would we have to give you those services? Yeah, and that income threshold is actually pretty low. Yeah. And then the therapies are super expensive. So how they figure like you're not going to eat, basically. I mean, I've seen parents that had to make the sacrifice and pay for their child's services and not be able to eat. I've seen parents that are overworked, even though they make that income threshold, they still got to take care for their kids, and it burns them out, and they can no longer do it. And as they get older, it gets difficult, because you have parents that if you have a person in a wheelchair, you have to lift them up to put them in their bed. As they get older, the more they weigh, the older you get, you're gonna hurt your back. So it's a very challenging process, and it's something that needs to be worked on. Yeah, it's all about money. Yeah, it's all about money. So before we go too far into that rabbit hole, I want to go back to your therapies when you were a kid, because something I noticed with my daughter is that when we start and I don't even like calling it therapies, honestly. Like some things like PTOT, that's therapy, but things like just like learning, I prefer to call it tutoring, right? Like my little boy, we have a tutor comes to the house. Mm-hmm. She works with my daughter on her autism stuff, and my little boy with his regular schoolwork. And it's like, why should we call his schoolwork tutoring and hers therapy? Yeah. It's all schoolwork. It's all the same thing. And he's not falling behind. He's actually getting ahead of his peers. So I like to call some things are therapies like PTOT, and some things are just tutoring. So what I see my daughter with her tutoring is that after a while she gets frustrated. And I've listened to some adults with disabilities that went through therapies as a kid, and they're bitter about it because they were forced to do things like beyond their threshold of wanting to do it. Do you remember going through that yourself? Very little, but I'm very self-aware, and yeah, you can speak. I could speak, and then if there's something that I know I can do. I force myself to do it in a way because I know it's for my better good. And it also takes some convincing because most of the time you're scared of what's not going to happen. You're scared of what may not happen in the end. So
what do you mean by that?
So you're looking far in the future
to the adulthood.
To adulthood, and you're like, okay, I know I can't do this, but I know I have to at some point and deal with it. So you're scared of the outcome without even going through it. I didn't want to learn how to tie my shoe. I'm like, I'll just get those Velcros. And like, you have to learn at some point because shoes nowadays, especially if the older you get, they don't have that Velcro. So then I'm like, okay, I'll learn how to tie my shoe. Well, it took some convincing.
My daughter, all Velcro. It's just easier. We're good with the Velcro. But yeah, teach his own,
Yeah. It takes some convincing for sure.
Okay,
but you'll get there.
Now you talk about your mom a lot, and then you talk about your future. I take your mom from a very young age was telling you, Anthony, you need to do this because one day you're going to be an adult, and da. Like, tell me how that was.
My mom is a very straightforward person and trying to push everybody to do their best they can, and she did that very well. I remember her telling me I would take you to these therapies down in downtown because that's the only place at the time that had those
now
services.
They're everywhere.
And then little by little they started these different agencies like Connect for Kids. I don't know if they're still there in Dolphin Mall.
I know them by name.
Yeah, so I used to go there with them, and I would go to their program, and you're there with other people with disabilities because sometimes you can have them come home, but it's not the same than being with the other people, with your peers, and interacting with other individuals with disabilities.
Well, let's talk about that, because you would have had two peer groups. You would have had your just neurotypical, just able-bodied, and then kids with disabilities. Did you find yourself drawn to one community or the other, or you were good?
I was good with everybody. I was somewhat social. Once I get comfortable with people, I was able to interact with them, do different activities. I remember the physical therapist would interact with the other ones, and then we would have joint activities, like maybe an obstacle course, and we would try to do it like a competition to make it fun. Because we're kids, or if not, we're trying to have them be active. Because a lot of people with disabilities are not that active, and that's super important.
Super important. Yeah, and I'm guessing also that as you grew older and your your peer group grew older, they just became better with you.
Yeah, well, yes. When you know your peers and you've been around them for a while, it gets easier, and you start to know, okay, this person understands my limit, so they won't push you. There's others that will push you to do more than beyond your limit, but for your own good. So it depends.
No, like I said, I graduated high school much earlier than you. So back then, just disabilities. There were kids in wheelchairs, with severe disabilities, physical disabilities in the school, but I don't remember really receiving any kind of education on, these are your peers, they need certain help. Was that part of the curriculum when you were in school?
No, I did most of my curriculum was regular school. I never remember doing any of the things in school. Maybe I've had my therapist come and help me with the physical.
No. What I mean is, was anybody teaching your typical peers about your disability? Hey, Anthony, he needs more help, or kids like Anthony?
Not that I saw myself.
Yeah. Do you think that would help?
I think so, but it depends on the teacher and the people around you
and the administration. I've heard a lot of good things about Southwest High School. That's a school that comes up over and over and over again. And I've got to go do a tour one day.
Yes.
But I've had people on with their kids have got autism or Down syndrome, and they all rave about Southwest High School.
So Southwest is one of the good ones, and I think Coral Park too.
Yeah.
Because I was part of that program, Best Buddy, so I was able to see what they teach people with disabilities. They go out and interact with regular peers, but not as much.
Yeah.
Because they can only take so much stimulation.
Right.
So, but I was able to see them learn how to wash clothes because they had washers and dryers, learn how to cook basic meals. So I was able to get that experience, not on my own, on the day-to-day, but being part of that club and helping people and seeing them firsthand.
That's great. I've also heard a lot of good things about Hialeah. A lot of, from kindergarten to high school, I've heard really good things about Hialeah.
Yes, Hialeah too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It just depends on the leadership of
The leaders.
school.
It's all the leadership. Because you can't put it on the teachers. Because you could be the greatest teacher in the world, but if you're not getting support from up above.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And then there's a school that I remember going to a lot. It's a Quest Center.
A what?
The Quest Center.
The Quest Center. Okay, where is that?
That is in Broward. That is a school specialized for kids with disabilities.
Physical and cognitive? Or?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
So they are from kindergarten to 5th grade. And they help kids with disabilities continue with their self-education, but also with life skills. There's also one down in Homestead called the Night Center. So there's schools specialized for people with disabilities alone, so they can continue with their life skills. Those schools are great, but I think some sort of integration with regular students helps them too, because they may be able to see a regular student doing this activity. They're like, oh, I think I could do that. I want to try it. Even though they may fail, they're going to continue doing it until they get it right.
I think that it's very important to have this mix.
Yes.
Because I see with my own kids, like my daughter, she's neurodivergent. My little boy is neurotypical. And he learns from her how to just be accepting and more tolerant. And I think that she's learning also from him. What she's learning, I don't know, but it's got to be good things.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's always good because in that situation, you will have your son learning how to help someone or be patient with someone with some sort of disability. And then vice versa, she sees things that your son may be showing us. That patience gives her comfort.
Yes. Yeah, he does take care of her. He's 2 years younger. He already big bellies his older sister. Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah. And like I told you before the show, I had on these 2 high-functioning autistic girls, and they were both musicians, violin players, and they talked about how when they were coming out through school, that they tried out for the music program. And music is like sports. It's pretty easy to know who's who. Like, am I good enough or not? And they tried out for this program. It was an advanced program, and they weren't accepted. And they were both in different schools, but it happened to each of them in their own school. Like, wait a minute, I'm as good as people, or better than people that got in the program. Why did I not get into the program? So their mothers came and advocated for them, not asking for a favor, just asking for fair treatment. And they called it ableism. You've probably heard this word before. And if it wasn't for the moms advocating, they wouldn't have made it to the music program. And they ended up both graduating from college from music, from violin. Did your mom ever have to advocate for you as well, like that?
Yeah, a lot with my teachers, because sometimes they would say, "Oh, Anthony can't do this." I remember doing a field day. This is back in my elementary days. I wanted to do the tug of war, and my teacher told me, "No, you can't do it the day of," because I wanted to do one activity to participate in those field days with my different peers of different classes. And after that, I told my mom what happened, and she came and spoke to the teacher and the principal and be like, "How did this happen? He's able to do anything that any other person would do." And I've had teachers that get frustrated with me because I can't learn this simple math equation or whatever the case may be in my learning. And my mom would come and say, "He's able to just be patient." So much so that the principal knew my mom by name. That if my mom was there, it was to get something was going on.
Oh no, Miss Gonzalez is back.
Yes.
But it goes back to like those class sizes. You can't have 44 kids in a class.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. Then you have a child that needs extra support. So like these teachers, like I think they were just asking too much of them.
And they're not educated. Some of them are not educated.
They're not prepared.
No, they're not.
So on the one end, they're not prepared. And you can't be prepared for 44 kids. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do. That's just the zoo.
Yeah. And going back to my mom advocating for me, she would advocate for me until a certain age. And she told me, you got to start defending yourself.
Yeah.
Because mom and dad are not going to be here forever. So that's where that came about. And my mom's like, okay, you got to be able to do this. Talk to your teachers. Because I remember that I would not tell my teachers at the time, oh, I need help with this. So my mom's like, you got to do it. Because at some point, mommy and daddy are not going to be here at all. So what are you going to do if you don't advocate for yourself?
And something that parents of all kids, but probably more so with kids have disabilities, is that we all worry about bullying. Was that something that you dealt with when you were in school? A
little bit, but I didn't let it get to me as much. And it was all because of my disability, is what I would think so. And that didn't really affect me as much as I thought it would. It did.
Oh, really?
Just the exclusion is what affected me more.
Yeah, I can think that it's easier to avoid, to like just ignore words, but the exclusion must have been really hard.
Yeah, it was. And in those activities where that you want to be with your peers was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. And you said you were 5 years old when you first started noticing
Yeah.
this. You know, you're going to have kids one day. If you had a kid with disabilities, 5 years old, going through the same thing, like what would be like your words of wisdom or guidance to that little boy?
I would say everything gets better as you get older and you start realizing, and just know that even though you seem like you are different, you're not. You are able and capable of doing things as anybody else. Because that's the same thing my parents told me. And if it weren't for those words, again, I wouldn't be advocating for people with disabilities or being where I am now, helping others.
And you said it was around junior high school where things got better, or was high school?
Middle school, high school. Middle school was when I started realizing I could do better academically. Mm-hmm. And in high school is when I realized that, there's a lot of things that need to be done better for people with disabilities.
Like what?
Like the way that they're being taught in their classes, the way that the ratios are not correct for students to have ESD programs, the education part of giving parents the resources they need. Like they don't know that they have to register their kid with that agency, regardless if they're high functioning or not. You never know, because I may not need those services now, but when I'm older, maybe I do, because maybe I can't walk or I can't do things because of my limited mobility. And I started realizing, okay, I need to think about the future too.
Yeah, something that I did when my daughter was, we first knew that she was autistic, is I started educating myself, because nobody's gonna knock on your door. And there's a ton of services out there, especially in Dade County. And I've heard parents complain like, oh, there's nothing at me. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a lot here. There's a lot. But you got to plug in.
Yeah. And you got to know the people. There's Sunrise community that does housing and the ADT, adult training programs. And you have the WOW Center, which does adult training programs.
And there's others.
There's others.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I know people have children with disabilities, but they don't think future ahead. So when you think of people with disability, you think of children. You don't think of adults as much. But disability is for the rest of your life. It doesn't just stop after you get a certain age. So then you have to think of that going forward. Because in Florida, after the age of 22, you can no longer go to public school. So where are you going to send them so they can still be active and still be learning? That's where the adult training programs come in. And you have services from everywhere, depending on what you need, especially in Dade County.
Yeah, and then going back to the APD, or the aged persons with disabilities, there's a wait list.
Yes.
And like, even if you do get accepted, it's a good amount of money you're going to get, but you could be on that wait list for 7 years.
Or more.
It
depends.
It depends.
And they have over 25,000 people registered. And then the state legislator actually tried to make a pilot program to help alleviate that burden, but I don't think it's doing much.
And 25,000 people, that's not a lot of people compared to the population of people with disabilities.
Yes. And that's the big thing. And then the state, as much as they want to help people with disabilities, I don't think they have the capability to be able to give these people these services. They prefer to get you off the wait list and be able for you to defend yourself, so they don't have to take that into account or help give you the funding because someone else may need it.
Yeah, I read that 1 in 6 people lives with a disability, like a life-changing disability. So if, Dade County, we have almost 3 million people. So 1 out of 6, that's like between 400,000 to 600,000 people.
Yeah.
So statewide, there's 25,000 people on it. Statewide, what is the population? It's going to be millions of people.
Millions of people. And then also the agency of people with disabilities, they put people on the wait list are in the developmental years. So you may have a disability today, you can't get on that list. So there's a limit where you can get that.
Explain that. I don't understand.
So they do APD. What they do is they do a cognitive test at a certain age. So maybe 6 to 18. And if you're below 70, they put you on that wait list.
And what is 70? IQ?
The IQ level.
Okay.
So if you have IQ of higher, you're not more likely to be on that list. So in my case, since I got diagnosed very young, obviously I was not really that eventually right. They put me on that on that wait list. And to this day, I'm still in that wait list. And they were telling me, oh, we're going to try to get you out. But then when they gave me that questionnaire, because they do yearly or every 3 years, a test to see where you are in your level of understanding and life skills. They told me, I don't think you'll be able to get these services at any moment, not even OT, PT, or anything.
Yeah,
you can do everything for yourself.
That's the thing. Like you're like you're in a tough spot because you could use some more PT, but you are high functioning enough where, wow, yeah.
And this is recently. This is back in December. They were like, oh yeah, I don't think you'll be able to get this, but we'll see.
Okay. Now let's talk about things you can do. Because I see here on the questionnaire you filled out, you have 3 degrees?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So I have a degree from Miami-Dade College, an associate's in public administration, and then FIU, a bachelor's in public administration, and then I have a master's from UF from public relations.
Nice.
Because I wanted to help the public in any way possible.
And you said that this was funded through VR or partially funded?
Yeah, from VR, the college part of it. So they were able to help me pay for my books. Sometimes for my education, which I didn't know that they were able to do that because they didn't tell me that in high school. I went and called. I'm like, is there a way you guys can help pay for classes? And they're like, yeah, we could do that. But if you don't ask, they won't tell you. Which
I think is just like such a disservice because I think that your high school counselor should know about these things.
Yeah, and then you have high schools that have counselors specialized for people with ESD.
And they should know about VR. Come on.
Yeah, they should, and they don't. I found out about VR in my senior year. I'm like, what did it take you guys so long to tell me about this? And I'm worried about how I'm going to pay for my classes because my parents are not wealthy. And a lot of parents don't have that financial stability to be able to pay for their kids' school.
Now, thinking like a conspiracy theorist, do you think that they don't know or they're just told, hey, don't say anything unless you're asked?
It could be both. Yeah. Because maybe it's a lot for them to handle because when you're a counselor, you have thousands of students. Imagine trying to give that same information to thousands of students. You can't. And you have parents that you may do a workshop to get that information. You have parents that are in denial that their child has a disability.
You know, talking about workshops, do you think it would be possible to get together and do workshops for parents on VR and APD and all that?
I think it would be great and it would be very beneficial. And I think where I used to work, we saw it a lot. We were doing our tabling and they're like, oh, we want you to come and give information to our parents from other schools. We have other schools come to that booth and tell us, hey, we want you to come here, give information to parents, even our teachers that don't even know what's going on. And that's where we came in and we're like, okay, this is a process. This is what happens after you reach a certain age. Here's all the information. If you have any other questions, we're here to help you. Our organization, when I used to work, if we're not the best fit, we'll help you find somewhere else that will be a great fit. Because people with disabilities, it's not a political issue. It is an issue that affects anyone regardless of stance or anything.
Yeah, and I think that as far as getting in front of parents, I think that public schools are just it's a really tough nut to crack. Whereas private schools, charter schools are just easier.
Yeah, the thing is that public schools have a lot of red tape.
Too much.
And too
bureaucracy,
much in between. So you have people have different views of how to handle a situation, and you have them telling these elected officials or these schools, hey, you should do it this way, and you have someone else telling them differently. So then you have that principal or that elected official be like, okay, what do I do? So then they have to sit there and analyze, okay, what is the best course of action to move forward?
You know, I'm on a swim advisory board for water safety at FIU. And the ladies who facilitate it, they're like, we're talking about what we should do. Like, oh, well, I'll have to ask the administration to use the pool and then ask them for money. And I might listen. We're in March. 11 kids have already drowned in Dade County.
Yes.
What you're talking about is a 6-month to a 1-year process. How many more kids are going to drown if we go through all the red tape? I was like, look, I have a friend from British Swim School. She owns 6 locations. We can use her pools. Her daughter's autistic. She'll be glad to have us. Money. We're not talking about a big amount of money here. We can find people to donate the money.
And there are people that will win.
There are people that will do it.
You just got to find them.
And it's like, sometimes it's like these big bureaucratic systems. Yeah, they've got a lot of kids that you could help, but they're unhelpable because the system just makes it so hard that you can't help them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. I myself have seen it where I always like to say this. If something were to happen, that's when it gets fixed. If something doesn't happen drastically, it will not be fixed. Unfortunately, that's the way I see it. I don't know if other people see it like that. But if something does not happen to someone or something, the system will not fix it.
No, it always takes a tragedy.
Yeah. And it shouldn't. And it shouldn't get to that point.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to some more things you do. So, you drive now, or you're working towards driving? You have your license?
Driving. I have a license. I drive. I do everything myself.
That's good.
I'm grateful I'm able to do that.
Excellent. How long have you been driving?
Since I was 17.
It's funny because nowadays kids don't want to drive anymore. They're all like on their phone, like communicating with their friends, and they don't want to drive anymore. But when we were kids, like everyone wanted to drive.
Yeah, I wanted to get my license since I was a little kid, and now that I'm driving, there's days I don't want to drive. I do it because I need to get to point B to A.
Well, you work, so you have to.
And I work, and I have to. So, but it gets to a point where you're tired of driving because in Miami there's traffic. Who wants to be sitting in traffic for an hour?
Nobody.
You're better off getting an Uber or something, or people say get a helicopter to move from point A to point B. Yeah. And unfortunately, Miami's traffic is going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, it's not getting better. And ever since I can remember, all the highways have always been under construction.
Yes.
There's always been, the Bob's barricades. Everywhere you go, there's Bob.
Yes.
And that just hasn't ended since the 70s.
Yeah. And there's a street, I remember my mom was telling us in Hialeah, a 4th Street that's been in construction for 20 years.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And I'm like, what's taking them so long?
Yeah. It's like the bridge over the river.
Right.
That new overpass. It's like, I've driven by there and it's like, there's days during the week where I drive by and like, there's nobody. It's like, of course you're never going to finish this. There's nobody working.
Oh, yeah. And there was a period where there was a standstill because the whole market was not great. And a lot of construction was not being done. So a lot of projects got pushed back.
Yeah, way back.
But then we're getting there. We're still not 100%. And Florida's one of the biggest states with a lot of people moving here. So how do you combat the demand of people coming and the roads and building housing?
Yeah, and a lot of them come to Miami.
Yes.
Miami-Dade County.
Miami-Dade County is the hot spot for everything.
It sure is.
We have a lot of big billionaires coming here and investing their money in Miami.
A lot. So, and you work?
Yes.
Full time?
I work full time.
Good for you.
I work full time, and I'm grateful for that.
Okay.
Which, if I was still getting my funding from Social Security, I wouldn't be able to work full time. You're not legally allowed to work full time. You're only allowed to work part time. So in the end, when they told me, "Oh, you don't need those services," it kind of worked out for me because I'm able to make my own money and do my own thing. Go out with friends, do different things, pay for my insurance. I pay for all my stuff. My parents do not help me with anything. And it's part of that being able to work full time. If not, I wouldn't be able to.
And you prefer that?
And I prefer that. Yeah. So in the end, it worked out.
Okay.
I know my mom was looking out long term and myself as well, because if you're on those services, when you need it, you're already there.
Was it scary getting off the services? Thinking like long term?
I didn't think about it like that until recently, where my parents were like, you need to start thinking future. I'm thinking of the present and now, and they were thinking of the future. And then not until they point out. Sometimes you need someone to point out stuff for you.
Yeah, of course. We all have blind spots.
Blind spots. And that was one of them. And I had a colleague, which I called. I'm like, oh, they came and are asking for how I'm doing. Should I meet with them? And he's like, yeah, do it, because you never know when you won't need those services. They may have denied me now, but then you never know if maybe 30, 40 years from now, they may say, okay, you need them.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of it comes down to just how you word it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been seeing more and more articles online about psychologists saying that more and more of their clients are asking for an autism diagnosis, because then that opens up more services.
Yeah. And sometimes in Florida, there's people that don't need those services, but still get it. There's a big, broad situation going on.
If you have autism, you have it. But I see people that I kind of consider like the bandwagon autistics. Like, are you really autistic or just quirky?
Yeah.
Because it's not the same thing. Because like my daughter, she's non-speaking. You can't get her attention. She's 9. She's still not potty trained. You know, it's like, she's autistic. Then I see some people like, you know what? You're just like, remember that show, The Big Bang Theory? What was that guy's name?
Sheldon.
Was he autistic or just quirky? Because nowadays he could call himself autistic and get services. And then people will be like, well, what's the big deal? But the big deal is that if he can work and have a regular life, but he's getting these services, well, when my daughter, the line gets longer.
Yeah.
And she might get turned down.
Yeah.
So I think that it does matter.
It does. And I think that's why I think the state's starting to realize, okay, we need to reevaluate everything and see where we went wrong. And I think with the new director that they put in place recently.
Well, tell me about that. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, so there's a new director for APD.
His name, her name?
I can't remember the top of my head their name, but he started recently, and they're, I would think, starting to look into the system and see where they're going wrong. Because there's a lot of people on that wait list. They're not moving anywhere. Then you have a turnover of employees. So you may be having someone that was there 20 years ago. They retire. Then you have someone else come in. Who's going to train that person? You can't have someone that was there 5 months before that person to train them, because then they're going to be gone. So there's a lot of turnover in that agency. And that's a big issue, because then you're not giving the people the experience they need to provide the services to the residents, and the people on the list. Something
I've also seen is that I'll give you an example. I met this mom and his dad, and they've got a son who's got a Phelan-McDermott syndrome, and the boy, he's in a wheelchair. He's he's physically impaired, maybe also mentally impaired, but it's a syndrome like 3,000 people in the whole world have it. So it's not on the list of disabilities, and they couldn't get him services until he was diagnosed with autism. So his Phelan-McDermott syndrome is actually much worse than his autism.
And explain that to me. That's the first time I hear about that disability.
Yeah. But when you meet the boy, you realize this boy needs a lot of help, and this boy, the help he's getting, like just that wheelchair is going to be thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But it's only 3,000 people in the whole world, or something like a very tiny fraction of a fraction. And with that, because it's not recognized, they couldn't get him services. But he's also was diagnosed with autism, then because of the autism. But his autism is much less than his physical impairment, which I thought was just such a shame.
Yeah, the system unfortunately needs to be reevaluated in my book. I think they need to see differently, because if this is a rare occurrence, what is it to say that it may grow? Because unfortunately, with everything going on in the world, the different diseases that come from anywhere, someone could get some sort of disability out of nowhere.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about your mom, but I'm a dad, so let's talk about dads. I haven't talked much about your dad. Now, something that I've noticed, I go to an autism dads group, so I'll just give you some backstory here, is that there are fathers that jump right in, and then there are fathers that either leave or check out. Like, I'm here, but my mind is elsewhere, because I can't handle it. I was just talking to Pedro Curbelo. He's the owner of Koala ABA Center in Doral. He's like, my fathers are the problem, the dads, because their kid is autistic, their kid needs help, and the dad's like, no, my boy's good, my daughter's good, they don't need it, they'll grow out of it. And it's the dads who are holding the kids back because they want to just deny it out of existence. So what was your experience with your father?
Well, my father is very active with me, and my father, I want to say this, a lot of fathers, I think they see it differently, because it's a very macho thing that your child shouldn't have this sort of issue. But my father was present. He's always been there for me from beginning to end. And whatever I need, he's always there. So he's always been by my side, regardless. But my mother, since I've spent more time with my mother's the one that's been pushing me to my limits.
That's good. What would you say to fathers who are on the fence? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I plug in?
And I will also say this, I've seen mothers too do it as well and leave. They should stay, because regardless of disability or wherever, a household needs a mother and a father, because the mother could give the father could give the discipline that the mother can't. And I've seen it myself from out in the streets. When a mother may say something, the kid may not do it. But then when the father speaks up, they're gonna stop doing what the parents telling them to do. So it's important to have both households.
Very important. Yes.
Very important, because they all have their own way of giving the discipline to that child.
Yeah. I will say this about moms is that for the most part, when a parent checks out, usually it's the dad.
Yes.
The moms, of course, there are moms who don't do the right thing either, but for the most part, it's the dads who check out. And it's the mom to me who are like the Mack trucks. They're the ones doing all the most of the heavy lifting.
Yes. And I could agree, because I think the dads are just afraid of that commitment, is what I think.
Yeah.
They want to have their own freedom, and they can't do that if they have a child, especially a child with disability.
As a dad, I don't think it's so much the freedom, because once you get married, the shackles on.
Right.
I think more of it's the macho thing, like you were saying, like, oh, my boy should be playing football or wrestling or whatever. I think it's more the macho thing.
And they don't see that with their child with disabilities. I even played baseball myself, or t-ball, and the way I played it was very different from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to, if I was able to do it, anybody could do it. You just had to have both parents there. If the dad could get the sports side, the mom could be the disciplinary and push the child to do great. It's just having both goes a long way, regardless of where you are.
Okay. Now, you've worked in both the public and the private sector, right? Yeah. Okay. So you've worked like in the nonprofit world also.
It's a not private nonprofit.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So they get corporate funding, but they also get funding from the state. So it's like in the middle. And
what kind of work were you doing?
I was doing their outreach for them.
Oh, what kind of work was the nonprofit doing?
So the nonprofit, their work is housing for people with disabilities, especially adults.
Can we say the name? Is that okay? Or
the Sunrise Community. So they would do a lot of community-based housing in regular houses in the community, and then they have their adult training programs throughout South Florida, which is where I would do the outreach and bring resources or services to that organization.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, Sunrise is doing the management for Casa Familia out in Kendall, which is just amazing.
Yes, and Casa Familia is also a great program as well. There's a lot of services that each one provides, and I learned this from my previous boss, and she says that a lot, that people in Florida or anywhere with disabilities, we're here to help each other. If we wanted to be competitive, we wouldn't help other organizations, in the case of Sunrise with Casa Familia, because we're all here to help people with disabilities so they could thrive.
Yes. Now, have you worked at all with, not for, but maybe just with like the local government here, the county or municipalities?
Yes, I just got appointed by Commissioner Rob Gonzalez to the Commission on Disability Issues.
For the county or?
Miami-Dade County.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll be on that board advocating for people with disabilities.
Okay. And the Disability Fair is coming up in, I think, September, right?
Yes, I believe so. They also do an event every year where they have both a resource informational share, and then they also do an event down in the government center for people with disabilities, and then they have people with various disabilities doing performances. And
tell me about that.
So they do like a show
at the Moss Center. Is that what you're talking about?
At the Stephen Clark Government Center down at the bottom. They do a big show, and they have performances for people to enjoy and interact. It's a very good event. But the biggest one that I think that they do is that resource fair, because parents need resources.
Yes,
that's the most important thing that I think is to know people to know about.
And the board, exactly what do they do?
So they advocate for people with disabilities in Dade County.
But
so we give recommendations to the commissioner. So if we have an issue with STS, because STS is partially funded through private, but then it's like a partnership with the county. And I know myself, being on the outside and with that nonprofit I worked for, Sunrise, the main discussions they've had is STS. STS was the biggest issue.
What was the issue?
That you would call to get a car to pick you up at 8 o'clock and they don't show up until 9. Or vice versa, you have a person with disability that obviously cannot handle that much stimulation and they're waiting in the car for 2 hours. So there's a big issue with that transportation services, and they're not up to date with technology. Now is when they're looking into making it into an app. Back in the day, you have to call and say, I need this service. So they're way behind in what they need to be providing with the various technology we have now.
Yeah, and for people that are watching or listening, they may wonder, well, okay, if the car comes at 8:30 and not 8 o'clock, what's the big deal? It's just half an hour. But the big deal is, let's say you're an employee and you're an hourly employee and you have to be working, let's say 9 a.m, and you get there at 9:30, your boss can't let you do that every single day because they got a business to run also.
Yeah. That's the other thing. And then you also have to take out the traffic that we have in Florida. So you may say 8 o'clock, they try to get there, but then maybe an accident happens and they're stuck and they can't move anywhere. But that there has to be some other way of combating that, because maybe that person's stuck in traffic. You may be able to send someone else to pick up, because maybe that person needs to go to an appointment. What if they miss their appointment? What if they need to go somewhere that they need services, and because that vehicle did not get there on time, they're not able to?
Yeah. I had an interview one time with a lady who had, I forget what the name of the disability, but she was in a wheelchair and she needed STS. And I get here at 10:30. She's like, oh, I've been here since 9:45. I'm like, why? Because that's when STS could leave me here. So that's a lot of just time of your day, just to no good end. And then also, let's say you get out of work at 8 o'clock and the store closes and you're outside by yourself until 9 o'clock when STS shows up. That's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, I've seen all those stories. Being in that meeting, it's very important because you hear the different stories from different people, especially from board members, because you have board members that have disabilities that sit on it. You have those that don't but advocate, but you have those that experience it on the daily. One of the board members, I remember him telling me this and saying it out loud. He wanted to put gas, but he's in a wheelchair. He would call a number on the screen so they could come out, but the attendant cannot lead that gas station alone, so they have to have two. But usually most gas stations just have one employee, so they can't help you pump the gas. So what do you do in that situation? It becomes very hard, and you cannot move forward what you need to do on your day.
Yeah.
I've seen people also with STS waiting in the lobby of a hospital for 3 hours waiting for STS to get there, and they already finished their appointment.
You know, and then going like in defense of STS, it's like the teachers. You have the resources you have. Like if you have 10 cars and you need 15, well, you only have 10 cars. That's not their fault.
Yeah.
So we need more money.
I don't think there's a lot of emphasis for people with disabilities overall. There's emphasis in everything else, but not with people with disabilities. I don't think they see them as contributors to society as much as they think they are. And they are. They just in their own way.
I think also there's just limited budget. Like there's only so much to go around.
That too, but then you would find other ways to give those resources, because there's ways to do it. I'm a big believer on that. And there's different ways that these people could contribute. I mean, I'm sure you've been to No Limit Coffee Shop. It's one of the best. I think it's one of the best coffee shops there is.
The food there is great.
It's great. I go there once in a while, and the service is amazing.
I live nearby, so I'm there all the time. I'm a regular.
So yeah, it's just putting the resources where they need to go.
Okay. Now going back to it could be either the county level or the municipal level. What public programs are getting it right for disabilities? I
think the ones that are getting it right is the county more than anything right now. As far as with the current mayor we have, she's put an emphasis.
Yeah, she sure has.
With disability.
Kava, yeah.
Kava. So I think she's doing a great job. Just the issue is that little that I've seen is STS, but that's a big thing that needs to be addressed at some point. But she's doing great. She's the one that started that CODI board. So having people with disabilities being
the CODI board,
Mission on Disability Issues.
Okay.
So having people that advocate and see this on the daily, and you could advocate, you talk back to your commissioners, and then they're like, okay, we need to address this issue. Because there was a lot of public roadways that didn't have accessibility for people with wheelchairs across the road. So then those people that were on that board spoke to their commissioners and they were able to address it. So having advocates in the government process helps a lot, because a lot of these commissioners are not educated. Raquel Regalado, I'm sure, which you know, has children in the spectrum, and she's one of 13 commissioners that understands the process of people with disabilities. But there may be others that don't get it because they don't have someone in their family, or they do. It just depends on every situation. Yeah,
and I think more than anything is they don't get it because if you don't have like before my daughter being diagnosed, man, I knew about autism. Like I saw Rain Man, but more than that, I didn't know anything.
Yeah, right.
And and a regular person doesn't have a disability in their family. You can't expect them to know everything because there's so much to know.
Yeah,
there's so much to know.
And there's different disabilities. When people think of disabilities, the first thing they think is autism. There's more than just autism. There's my situation, cerebral palsy. There's Down syndrome. So it depends.
There's 13 that are recognized, but then even then, like the the Phelan-McDermott syndrome, there's some that aren't even on the list, and there's severe disabilities.
Yes, and one thing that I also want to bring up is there's the right support professionals that get burned out too, and they need the adequate support. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, if they haven't done so, it's not nationally recognized as a degree or a program.
What's that?
The right support professionals. So they're like employees that are with you at the program, helping these people with their life skills. But it's not a nationally recognized degree or work field. So how do you get them the benefits and the services that they need? Yeah. You're depending on local government and state to give you that funding. So that's a big thing. It
is a big thing. Now, also with the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce Leadership Project, you guys did sensory gardens?
Yes, we did a sensory garden.
Several?
We did two. We did two.
In the city of Miami?
In the city of Miami for Sunrise Community when I worked there.
Okay.
And we did one for our Old Dixie program, which when I was there, it was just a landfill. It looks like the one they brought the property was a greenhouse gas property.
Greenhouse? What?
Greenhouse.
So greenhouse. Okay.
Yeah. So then they turned that into sensory garden with different senses. So you have them going throughout the field. You could touch the earths, touch the sand, do different things in it. It helps them calm themselves. And then right before I left, I started that process for the one in Doral, and they were able to do a sensory garden in the back, and they did a sensory room with the different senses to help them escalate. So I was part of that project, and I was super excited about it. Because I've never done that before. I'm like, okay, how do we do this? But I had a great team. I had a great boss who helped me, and together we worked and were able to get that funding.
Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned sensory rooms because they have those at the airport, and they're awesome. Because like I'll go there with like my daughter, my whole family, but my daughter, like because if we're in the regular terminal, if you let go of my daughter's hand, she's gone.
Yeah,
she's just gone. She won't run, but she'll just. Like a little butterfly. She'll just leave. Whereas my little boy, he might wander, but you call him, he'll come back.
Yeah.
So these sensory rooms, you go in there, you close the door, and then it's really comfortable. There's bean bags, and you just let the kids go, and it's such a great benefit.
And it's a great thing to see it and seeing it yourself because you could see their level of anxiety or behavior de-escalate little by little. And believe it or not, that helps them a lot. And a light flickering different colors will calm them. Maybe not you and I, but
it calms me too.
But you'll see, it depends on the person.
Yeah, and just being able to let go of her hand and just be.
Yes.
Because always having to babysit, that tires.
Yes, which goes back to burning out the parents
and the educators
and the whole system. Whoever is helping those people with disabilities. I remember with my colleague, we went to one of our properties down in Palm Beach, and the dad was coming because he was burnt out. He wants to take care of his kid, but he knows that he can't. So he was looking for another option. That's where the homes come in, the community homes, where you had the support. It doesn't mean that you won't see your child. You could come and pick them up. I've seen mom and dad pick them up to go to McDonald's and then come back. But you get to a point where you're burned out and then you can't handle it.
Yeah, people, they'll hear like, oh, you can't handle it. Like, they'll be like toughen up, man. But people don't realize.
It's not easy.
No, and then for an example, I talked to this one mom. She had to put her boy in a home because she's single. The boy's bigger than her. He got violent and he was beating her up.
Yeah.
And she had to put him in a home in Orlando. And she goes every weekend to go see her son. But you can't tell mom, hey, get tough because literally when your boy's 6'1" and you're 5'8" or 5'5", and he outweighs by 50 pounds, and he's a boy,
it's tough for you and it's tough for everyone.
It's impossible because if you're getting beat up, you're getting beat up.
Yeah, I've seen I've heard the stories myself where the mom is constantly with their child, but then they want their independence, but they can't verbally say it. And I remember someone told me this story that the mom was getting beat up and abused by their child with disabilities. It wasn't until they found him a property by himself where he was out of his mom's view that his behavior de-escalated and his relationship actually improved with his mother.
Yeah. And people don't realize, people with regular kids, is that a lot of these parents are shut into the house. Like I was talking to one guy, he says that he runs a summer camp for autistic kids, and they went on an outing to a movie theater. And one of the dads crying says, this is the first time we've ever gone as a family to the movies.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen that some people want respite care where they take care of them for like a weekend so the mom and dad could get away for a little bit. And that's a little tough because as we know, people with disabilities don't like change. So if you bring someone that they don't know,
nobody likes change like that.
Yeah.
Weekends, that's hard on anybody.
No, that's hard on them. But then I've also seen what you mentioned, that they go to the movie theater and they feel like relaxed because it's the first time that they were able to enjoy the time for themselves. And I think one of the biggest activities that happens worldwide is Night to Shine. I don't know if you've heard of Night to Shine.
I have, yeah. So
Tim Tebow does this Night to Shine.
Yeah, he did one just like a month ago up in Fort Lauderdale, or Davie, up north.
Yeah, and he does it every year in February, where all people with disabilities have their prom and they're all crowned king and queen. And myself, that I went there with the people with the program, I went into the back room where all the DSPs, all the parents.
DSPs, what is that?
Direct support professionals.
Direct what? Support?
Direct support professionals.
Okay.
So there's the ones that are constantly with the people with disabilities. And I saw them feel so relaxed because they had someone else taking care of them, and they were enjoying the prom, dancing and eating and doing different things. If you don't get that time to yourself, you will burn yourself out completely.
Yeah. Well, AJ, this has been a great conversation. I think a lot of parents, whether in the community or out of the community, they appreciate hearing from somebody like yourself, because like my daughter, I can't ask her, and maybe I never will be able to ask her. So it's good to get your point of view, because it gives me a little bit of a peek into her mind, maybe. And then there's people that are not in the community. They're just, I don't like saying the word clueless, but you just don't know what you don't know.
That's true.
These are super important conversations.
Well, and thank you for having me. As always, I'm always willing to come back whenever.
Yeah, we met quite a few months ago, and it just took a while to make it happen.
Yes, but I'm glad it was able to happen.
Me too. Well, AJ, I got 3 last questions I want to ask you before we close that out, okay?
Okay.
First question is, what is one thing people assume about cerebral palsy that is wrong?
That they can't do anything. That's plain and simple. People with cerebral palsy could do things as anybody can, especially communicate. Just they do it on their own way. It could be blinking. It could be with a finger. There's different ways that they can communicate.
But you know what, though? Also, what I want to say about that, AJ, is that people with cerebral palsy, they're capable of much more than we think, but sometimes they need support.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with getting support, especially parents.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for support.
Yeah.
It's out there, but you got to ask for it. And
you got to find it too, and ask the right questions, because if you don't, you'll never get there.
Yeah. Okay. Second question is, what achievement made your mother proudest?
I think being able to do for myself and be an advocate for others, because if they said to which they did, your son won't be able to talk, won't be able to do things for themselves. I think her biggest accomplishment is me and myself and advocating for others.
And you were born in 2001, right?
2000.
2000. Okay. So in all fairness to the doctors back then, maybe back then, people with cerebral palsy, they were already 18. Maybe they couldn't do anything because the supports hadn't been there.
No.
But now, because you had all these therapies, you're probably a lot further along than somebody who was born 20 years before you.
And I would say something that piqued my eyes a little bit more is the movie Willowbrook.
What?
The movie Willowbrook.
Okay, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so they expose how the system was back in the day. They would treat you like you're not mentally right, and that was not correct.
Yeah, no matter what your disability was, you ain't mentally right.
And they put you in a facility. So it gradually evolved, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it comes with people being pushed to do great and having that support system.
Mm-hmm. Very important.
And obviously, as studies go and doctors get more educated on people with disabilities, it has a better outcome. I remember them also telling my mother, "Oh, you should abort the child because they have a disability," back in the early 2000s.
I don't think that happens. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think it happens now, but back in the day, that's what they literally told her.
Yeah. And that doctor, if he was that same age, but today, he probably wouldn't say that.
I believe so.
He would have seen better outcomes.
Yeah.
He probably said, Mom, you got to get your boy in this, and this. Don't wait. Don't delay. Do it as fast as you can.
Yeah, that's why it's important to get diagnosed at a very young age and giving those doctors resources.
Yeah.
If not, you won't find out until you're too late.
I was talking to a young mom whose psychologist told her, oh, wait on your boy's diagnosis. And I'm like, wait for what? Because if you go for a diagnosis and you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt nothing. But if you're right, then the kid can get into the system and get the support he needs. So this whole thing about like, wait for what? Right? Because the diagnosis, nobody gets harmed by a diagnosis. I mean, if you're talking about like brain surgery, okay, let's give to a second thought. But a diagnosis, like, why would you wait on that?
Yeah, I don't understand. And I've seen parents that don't get diagnosed or
they're in denial.
They're in denial.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't. It doesn't hurt. But and I think you see it a lot in the Hispanic culture. They think that their child cannot have this disability or this issue. They got to be strong. They're normal without knowing what they really have to go through.
Yeah. All right. Last question, AJ. What chapter of your life are you most excited about next?
I think continuing my public service in the public sector and be an advocate for people with disabilities wherever I can do it. And continue that route. That's my thing. If I have a disability and I could talk about it and educate others, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Excellent. Well, that's why these conversations are so important.
Yes.
Right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really I enjoyed this. This was good.
Well, thank you for having me. This is really great. I really did enjoy the conversation as well.
You're welcome. Now let's turn to the camera and we'll sign off. This has been the Autism Podcast with Anthony AJ Gonzalez. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.